All right, History 112, folks. I lied. I got to talk a little bit more about Chapter 30. There's a couple of things between 30 and 31 that are just kind of missing from the radar, but I wanted to talk about them anyway. I notice in the notes it talks about Ho Chi Minh, and Ho Chi Minh is going to be that actionary who's behind the birth of communism in Vietnam. He's going to be that driving force there. But also, it also talks about the Great Leap Forward. And the Great Leap Forward is all about China and the birth and continuation and expansion of communism in China in such a way that it's going to directly affect what's happening in Korea. It's going to directly affect what's happening over there in Vietnam as well, because that Great Leap Forward is a page out of Stalin's book about advancing, about industrializing, about creating a better, a stronger China, just like Stalin was attempting in his 4-year plans to go ahead and create a more industrialized, a better, a stronger USSR along the way. So it's important to realize that that's happening along the way. But the other thing you're missing is Richard Nixon. And Richard Nixon is an interesting guy. I know the unit talks about him versus what's happening with Kennedy in the whole first televised elections along the way. And the thing is he will eventually get elected because there's not a better choice. I got to say almost any choice would have been better, but he's going to be elected on the promise that he's going to get us out of Vietnam. And he's going to do that. He's going to do that just before he gets elected the second time. What he's going to do is achieve peace without victory. One thing that Johnson didn't want to do is he didn't want to be the guy that lost the war. Kennedy didn't want to be the guy that lost the war. So we pumped billions of dollars into the war in Vietnam, knowing we weren't going to win. And the problem is we knew we weren't going to win way early in the 60s, mid-60s. There's something called the Pentagon Papers. And the Pentagon Papers are going to be hugely important at this particular point to Nixon. They're going to be hugely important to the press. They're going to be hugely important to you, because what this does is this is going to destroy the presidency as I knew it and give you the presidency that you know, unfortunately. The Pentagon Papers is a study. And it's a study that says, listen, in the present pace, the way things are working in the war, the amount of support that we have, the amount of money we're pumping in, that we can't win this war, but we decide to go ahead and keep on pumping money in, keep on throwing troops, keep on throwing bombs, keep on losing lives at this particular point, because no one wants to lose face. But this is a secret report. It's a secret report up until the time that somebody makes some copies and leaks it to the press. And this is going to happen during Nixon's time period. Nixon's not going to be happy. This is going to come up. They're going to put it in the papers. They're going to leak it about the government knew what was happening, and yet we killed hundreds of thousands of people in an attempt to save face. Nixon is unique because he is, as a president, he keeps an enemies list. His enemies list are all the people he's unhappy with, all the people he wants to persecute, all the people that he wants to find some way to punish for not supporting him in such a way. This is going to put certain papers on the enemies list, and this actually is going to hit the Supreme Court. Well, this is why it's important, okay? This tells people the government has lied. It tells them not just one president, but several presidents, several senators, several generals have lied all this time, and that thousands of Americans have died for a losing cause. That tells people that what's happening behind the scenes might not be best, might not be real, for what we're being told versus what's happening is a problem. And so what will happen is Nixon is going to do his best to punish the press. And the press is going to return favor. What will happen is this, is Nixon is going to run for re-election. He's going to go ahead and try to excuse us from the war. He's going to go ahead and create a bargain, a peace that lets us slide out of the war, that lets us go ahead and retreat, that lets us get our POWs, our prisoners of war, back and give some back in such a way. But we don't lose, but we sure as hell don't win. All right, we get out of the war. We get out of the war, and then the communist forces take over everything, and we kind of tell all the people who are helping us, sorry, we're out of here, bye. He gets elected. What most people don't know about him getting reelected is he had a group of people called the Committee to Re-elect the President. The acronym for Committee to Re-elect the President is CREEP, CREEP. Got to tell you, folks, if you're going to make a committee to re-elect the president, you better find a better acronym than that, because what happens is several of the people that work for CREEP are going to go behind the scenes and arrange a break-in. What they want to do is find out what the Democratic strategy to elect the president is going to be, because Nixon is a Republican. And so what they're going to do is they're going to arrange to break into the Democratic National Headquarters at a place called the Watergate Hotel and Office Complex. Well, they're not professional burglars. They are politicians. They are a variety of other actionaries. They're going to break in and they're going to get busted. They're going to get arrested. And then what's going to happen is they're going to be traced back to the Committee to Re-elect the President. They're going to be traced back to the President, and the President is going to deny anything to do with it. He's going to deny any idea of what happened. And unfortunately, one of the things that we know now is during his time as president, Johnson had installed in the White House, in the Oval Office, a recording device. The idea was to record for posterity, to record for records, to record for evidence, some of the conversations and things for the National Archives. Well, Nixon is going to have this on when he's having meetings, and it turns out he knew all about this. He knew that it was illegal. He used his presidential power to go ahead and cover up for all these shenanigans. And even though he denied knowing anything about it, he was stupid enough to have the recorder on. And so what's going to happen is we're going to have one of those big investigative special counsels who are going to go ahead and investigate what's happening, because it will hit the newspapers. Okay? His right-hand men are right there as part of this break-in. And what will happen is it's going to turn out that he knew everything and he tried to cover it up. This is when we're going to start looking at the proceedings to impeach the president. Yeah, you've heard this before, but they're going to start pushing this. And what will happen is this. There's going to be a series of investigations. His vice president is going to be investigated. It turns out that he had some land dealings. And these land dealings are kind of fishy, and they're going to prosecute him. And so what he decides to do is go ahead and resign. And what will happen is Nixon will go ahead and appoint a new vice president. He's going to pick a guy named Gerald Ford. Gerald Ford is a long-term congressman. He's a good guy. He's a righteous guy. He is literally a Boy Scout and was an Eagle Scout at that particular point. And what will happen is they're hoping that the resignation of the vice president will take the heat off of Nixon, but it's not going to happen. What will happen is Nixon's supporters in Congress will come to him and say, listen, we've done the polling, we've done the investigation, we don't care what you say, this is what's going to happen. You're going to be impeached, you're going to be tried, and you're going to be found guilty, and you will be the first president kicked out of office. So we suggest you have some kind of an exit strategy. And what he will do is he will resign. He will resign, and Gerald Ford will take over the office of president. And one of the first things that Gerald Ford does is commit political suicide. He will say, you know what, our long national nightmare is over. He's going to go ahead and absolve Richard Nixon of any crimes, real or imagined, or that he might have or could do along the way. He's going to go ahead and give him a blanket pardon. He knows he's not going to get reelected, but what he wants to do is go past this. This is important, okay, because Ford's not going to get reelected, but who is going to get elected is a guy named Jimmy Carter. And Jimmy Carter is a great man. He is a good man. He is a kind man. He's a Christian man. He is a good-hearted president. I'm sorry, we have no use for a good-hearted president. We need devious, underhanded, hard-hearted people at this particular point in time. So where Carter does a really good job of being a good Christian man, he doesn't get much accomplished. And what will happen is that will blow up on him because there's things he's not aware of. All right, I will go ahead and pick up on Chapter 31 in the next video. Thank you.